All right, what's going on? Today I'm just gonna hop on here real quick and do a little bit of the news, just things I've seen either online or Instagram or whatever, um, in the kind of CrossFit world recently. First thing I want to talk about, probably most notable, is that I saw that the New York Times posted an article about Greg Glassman's little uh, new affiliation program called MetFix, which, if you haven't heard of it, it's going to be, from my understanding, something similar to CrossFit in terms of the affiliate structure, but it's going to be much more centered around, um, as the name suggests, MetFix, metabolic fix, fixing your metabolism. And there's going to be a much more less emphasis on thrusters and burpees and more emphasis on eating meat, vegetables, nuts, seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. And I think that's kind of going to be the basis of this whole new MetFix thing. Anyway, New York Times posted a article. I have not read it yet, so I'll be reacting in real time about it. I do think that, if I remember correctly, the New York Times was actually one of the people that put out that big hit piece on him in 2020 when everything kind of went down with the tweet and saying that he was sexually harassing people at work and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so here's the, let me present my screen, and I'm just going to read this. And obviously, I don't know what the New York Times whole stance on this thing is, so I'm just going to read it real time and react to it. So, okay. 4 years later, CrossFit's disgraced guru attempts a comeback. Man who sold the company, Greg Glassman, who sold the company amidst sexual harassment complaints, has a new health and fitness venture. It sounds a lot like his old one. In the summer of 2021, Josh Honeycutt, a longtime personal trainer and the owner of the New Species CrossFit Gym in Royal Oak, had a surprising opportunity. Greg Glassman, CrossFit's contentious but charismatic co-founder, offered more or less out of the blue to pick him up at his private jet and fly him to a party in Ohio. The pitch was for the two of them to drink vodka sodas and rub elbows with other luminaries of the health and fitness industry. Okay, this is interesting. I don't think I've heard this. Mr. Honeycutt couldn't say exactly why Mr. Glassman had singled him out with this invitation. I randomly caught his attention, I think because I mentioned all my daddy issues. I don't know what that means. He speculated in a recent video interview, but after spending time with Mr. Glassman, he was dully impressed. It was the most surreal experience, he said. People say don't meet your heroes because you'll be disappointed, but Greg is Greg. I wonder where this is going. Mr. Honeycutt described himself as the most basic version of a CrossFit box owner there is, with the pit bull, the tattoos, and the wife who also does CrossFit. Yep, that's pretty accurate. His gym was founded in 2008 in the basement of a YMCA, and for 16 years it has scrupulously followed the philosophy that Mr. Glassman, a former gymnast, expounded on the CrossFit website in the early 2000s. A simple but revolutionary methodology based on constantly varied high-intentional function movements, which spawned a brand worth billions that has been adopted in more than 12,000 gyms across 140 countries. But while his facility will continue to offer CrossFit training, Mr. Honeycutt will be among the new gym owners to promote Mr. Glassman's new fitness offering, MetFix, an invite-only community of gyms and trainers that bills itself as an evolution of Greg Glassman's methodology. An evolution. I think that I almost think that CrossFit should have been more invite-only in the early years of becoming an affiliate with CrossFit, because part of the issue is that just anybody was making affiliates. And I've been to affiliates that they are actually not doing CrossFit, but they have an affiliation. Anyway, part of functional fitness program with these movements in the vein of CrossFit, part nutrition, part program, part functional fitness program with movements in the vein of CrossFit, part nutrition program that advises against sugar and carbs. Okay, that's nothing new. That's basically just CrossFit. It's designed to cut through the epidemic of chronic disease that's killing millions and bankrupting nations. Or as Mr. Honeycutt describes it, it's a grown and sexy version of CrossFit with a little bit more on the critical thinking. Uh, Now it's going to go on to talk a little bit about what happened with Greg Glassman, I think, back in 2020. In addition to its stated goals, Metfix is also an attempt at a comeback for Mr. Glassman, a divisive figure whose reputation was seriously tarnished, leading to an exit from CrossFit. After his meteoric rise, Mr. Glassman sold the company in the summer of 2020 in the wake of multiple controversies. First, he wrote a post on social media about George Floyd and the coronavirus that provoked public outrage, and for which he apologized. Days later, he resigned as CrossFit's chief executive. After a fractious company Zoom call, fractious? What are these words? Company Zoom call involving the expletive-filled rants was leaked to the press. By the time an exhaustive report of routine and rampant sexual harassment at the company was published by the New York Times the following week, hundreds of CrossFit gyms had canceled their affiliation, and CrossFit's public image was in a free fall. Okay. A series of interviews with former employees for the Times report had revealed a management culture which there was frequent vulgar discussion of women's bodies. There were other accusations about inappropriate behavior by Mr. Glassman, including over his attempts to look down the shirts of female employees and pressure them to share a hotel room with him on the road. All claims he has denied. In the 4 years since the sale, CrossFit Inc. has tried to move on, cultivating an image as an accessible, welcoming exercise program with ambitious plans for growth, which has not worked one bit. It has also faced a share of controversies, including the death of an athlete at this year's CrossFit Games. Mr. Glassman, who declined to be interviewed for this article, has largely stayed out of the spotlight, spending time at his home with his family and occasionally stopping by CrossFit gyms to speak to receptive crowds. Talking at a gym in Colorado in 2022, he said that he has never been happier and that his abrupt exit from CrossFit was the best thing that ever happened to me. His license plate currently reads canceled. I think he's probably not as happy about it as he puts off, but that's just my opinion. Some of the effacement was mandatory. One of the terms of the CrossFit sale was a 4-year non-compete clause, which ended this summer. Free from those restraints, Metfix represents Mr. Glassman's splashy, high-profile return to the health and fitness space after his ouster, and despite the controversies, many in the CrossFit community are treating it like the second coming. That's because I don't think a whole lot of people were actually that mad about some of the stuff that happened in the CrossFit space or with Greg in 2020. I think that it was just a really loud subset of people on the internet. Can't wait for what's coming and Greg to be back, reads a typical comment on the Metfix Instagram page. His mind is what created all this, and it's not the name of the brand. It's him and his methodology. A representative for CrossFit declined to comment on Mr. Glassman or his new venture. The buzz around Metfix has focused on the return of Mr. Glassman, but he has a somewhat surprising partner in the venture. He founded the new company with Emily Kaplan, a former investigative journalist who met Mr. Glassman when she was reporting on women's health in the late 2010s. Okay, I didn't know where this lady was from, so that's interesting. She learned about Mr. Glassman's efforts to expose corruption in the scientific and medical professions, a lifelong passion project that had placed CrossFit in protracted legal battles with big soda companies, and the two bonded over their shared interest in misconduct. I started CrossFit like right when Greg was like really starting to get into all this like broken science and like kind of corruption in the medical and health industry. And so I don't know if you remember, but in 2019, if you went on CrossFit.com, like all the stuff in the very front, like up the very front of CrossFit.com was him just like articles exposing some of this stuff, which was pretty interesting. And I like that. We toured a bunch of hospitals together. She said in a recent interview, it was a sort of like a meeting of the minds. In the summer of 2020, Ms. Kaplan was in the process of reporting a magazine story about CrossFit's lawsuit against the National Strength and Conditioning Association, which I'm making a full video on very soon, and it's going to be awesome. When the accusations against Mr. Glassman started coming down, Mr. Glassman turned to Ms. Kaplan for advice. He was calling me, begging me to help him. I wanted to help him, but I kind of knew that this would be the end of my journalism career. She felt strongly that we've mislabeled somebody who's done a lot of work for the African community. I can't read. She felt strongly that we've mislabeled somebody who's done a lot of work for the African American community as a racist, but it was the sexual harassment accusations that compelled her to act. I can say in my heart that I do not believe that those things happened, she said. So Mrs. Kaplan formed her own crisis public relations firm, the Cleo Group, and began working to salvage Mr. Glassman's name. She maintained that the accusations were untrue and said that when Mr. Glassman sold CrossFit, they kept $20 million in escrow because they were sure somebody was going to come forward with a claim of sexual harassment. And the agreement was just to pay them, but no one came forward, she added. What? Wait. She maintained that the accusations were untrue. And she said that when Mr. Glassman sold CrossFit, they kept $20 million in escrow because they were sure somebody was going to come forward with a claim of sexual harassment. And the agreement was just to pay them. But no one came forward, she added. Does that mean that when they sold CrossFit, Greg kept $20 million to the side? I don't know what this means. Let me actually look up the word escrow because I'm not sure what this means. Escrow definition. A deed, bond, or money, a piece of property held in a trust by a third party to be turned over to the grantee only upon fulfillment of a condition. Huh. So I think they just kept it off to the side. But this is my understanding. That they kept money off to the side just in case somebody came forward and said that he had sexually harassed them. They were just going to pay him off and not even bother trying to like disprove it. They were just going to like pay him off and just get him to move away. That's what it sounds like to me, but I don't understand that. Mr. Glassman's fall from grace resulted in swift backlash from many of CrossFit's long-time corporate sponsors, including Reebok, which said in a statement in 2020 that the company had decided to end its partnership with the brand in light of recent events. Rogue Fitness, an equipment manufacturer with deep ties to the CrossFit, denounced Mr. Glassman on social media. Despite this fallout, Ms. Kaplan seemed confident that many major athletic brands, including ones of regular sponsors, GoRuck, were eager to work with Mr. Glassman again on his new role at MetFix. That's because everybody was absolutely insane in 2020, and things are coming back around. Jason McCarthy, GoRuck's chief executive, confirmed his company's involvement, but when asked if he had any concerns about associating with Mr. Glassman in light of the controversies, he hesitated and seemed reluctant to commit. I mean, the truth is, I actually don't know Greg, he said. Am I worried? We'll see. We'll kind of see where it goes. I haven't heard too much. Man, it is crazy. You controlled media, you control everything. It's insane. Last summer, Mrs. Kaplan and Mr. Glassman paid a surprise visit to the CrossFit Games. Really? In 2023? The annual competition to crown the fittest on earth, where Mrs. Kaplan said fans waited for more than 3 hours to meet Mr. Glassman and thank him for changing their lives. Yeah, I think a lot of people still feel very positive towards Mr. Greg Glassman. People were taking pictures, crying, talking about how sad they were that he's not there anymore, she said. After the event, she added, Mr. Glassman told her, they think that they owe me, but I owe them everything that I have. With Metfix, Miss Kaplan and Mr. Glassman are banking on the hope that there are many people in the CrossFit community who still feel as those fans did. I think there are. Miss Kaplan said that they would put out an open call for registration. That when they put out an open call for registration, they received applications from more than 3,000 former and current CrossFit affiliates. That is a freaking ton. That's 1/5 of all affiliates. Holy crap. Many of whom had appended sweet, heartfelt essays about how they miss his leadership. Yeah. Okay, I'm really interested in this next part because I think that it's going to be pretty accurate. As CrossFit's outspoken founder, Mr. Glassman had always had the aura of a guru, and there's popular sentiment among CrossFit athletes and gym owners that his distinctive style of leadership is yearned for, even if some of the controversies seem to go with it. Yeah, I think this is kind of the thing that a lot of people feel is like he's been up there. There's been no leadership in CrossFit since Greg's departure, said Andrew Hiller. Dude, Andrew Hiller made it, bro. That's crazy. A YouTube personality known for his videos about CrossFit. When Greg would say something, it would kind of be written into a theoretical tablet, like Moses comes down from the mountain and here you go, your 10 commandments. I think that's pretty accurate. And I love how Hiller made the New York Times article. That's awesome. Good for you. That's sick. Mr. Hiller referred to several documents that Mr. Glassman wrote in the early days of the company, including the essay, What is Fitness? And Fitness in 100 Words statement, which for many in the CrossFit world are keen to religious texts. They are for me, for sure. These are just the things that can't be replicated, Mr. Hiller said. But to be fair, I don't feel like Glassman's really come out with anything super close to the level of What is Fitness, Fitness in 100 Words, What is CrossFit, anything like that. Glassman hasn't made anything to that level basically since he came out with those in the early 2000s, to be fair. Metfix intends to lean into that. Ms. Kaplan said that she fought for Mr. Glassman to retain ownership of his writing when he sold CrossFit, and that this material, revised and expanded with a new focus on nutrition, would form the foundation of Metfix's own training certification programs. Does he still own those? If he still owns those, that's gangsters. Gym owners and trainers wishing to become Metfix certified, Ms. Kaplan explained, will be required to study this material and write an essay that Mr. Glassman will grade. That's fire. That is actually sick. Holy crap. That's cool. It's this emphasis on education that she insists will set Metfix apart even from CrossFit. Frankly, there's no one at CrossFit anymore who has real depth of knowledge about chronic disease or metabolic health. I agree with that. I think that from what I could tell, everybody who works at CrossFit, besides I think some of the L1 team, but like some of the guys at the top in the corporate area of CrossFit don't seem to know what the heck's going on. They've replaced most of them with these people with MBAs. I agree. The science of Metfix, the solution that Metfix proposes to fix chronic disease, off the carbs, off the couch, which is exactly what CrossFit says. Well said, says. As one Metfix affiliate put it, has had a mixed reception among dietitians and nutritionists, even though many of the more granular details have yet to be fully revealed. Jennifer Brocksterman, a registered dietitian and founder of CrossFit nutrition program called Nutrition RX, took issue with some of Metfix's framing of complex issues. Black and white absolutes, she added. When you set up a language of absolutes, this is good, this is bad. If you're having this, you're going to get cancer or Alzheimer's. Now you're fear mongering. I bet you that this person that works for Nutrition RX probably does the same type of fear mongering for the opposite way. Um, I mean, saying someone's fear mongering is kind of fear mongering. Ms. Kaplan said that Metfix would begin offering 2-day seminars taught by Mr. Glassman. That's fire. I would love to go to one of those. Sometime in the new year. She promised a big, broad education piece tailored initially for coaches and gym owners, which would eventually, I think, could be a homeschool curriculum. Dude, that would be sick. Okay. Of course, CrossFit itself became popular primarily as fast-paced dynamic exercise regime, a way to burn calories and perhaps build an impressive physique in a fun environment and an upbeat social setting. Its novelty mainly lay in combining Olympic weightlifting, gymnastics, functional exercises, and many of the amateur athletes who show up for their CrossFit workout probably haven't read Mr. Glassman's essays on metabolic conditioning or the glycemic index. Will Metfix be able to draw away from CrossFit people who just want to get in shape? This is a good question. Because I really do think that like the reasons I like CrossFit, I've learned are not the same reasons that a lot of the people that I know like CrossFit. Um, I think that I'm much more on the like, metabolic conditioning and glycemic index and measurable, observable, repeatable, all of these kind of like um deeper meanings behind CrossFit itself. I think I'm much more into those than a lot of people who are much more into just I want to get a good workout in feel. So I think this is a really good question. Will Metfix be able to draw away from CrossFit people who just want to get in shape? I think that's probably a big question. That is going to have to be asked. Or do they not care and we just want to get people who are going to be in Metfix because of Metfix, right? Like this is one of the things that I'm thinking is wrong with CrossFit currently is they're trying to appeal to a broader audience than what they are. And I think Metfix needs to keep in mind to only appeal to the audience that they appeal to. Like stick to what you are and stick to what you do. And if that's 3,000, 5,000 affiliates maxed out because that's the amount of people who are willing to be actually doing Metfix, willing to be actually understanding the damage that excess carbohydrates can do to your metabolism and your overall health, then just stick to those 5,000 affiliates. You don't need to be like CrossFit being like, oh, we have 12,000 affiliates. Let's change CrossFit and make it F45 and see if we can get to 16,000 affiliates, because what you're doing is just bastardizing half of your clientele who are actually there for actual real CrossFit. So this is a good question, but also I also kind of think on one hand, just stick to your guns, kind of. See if I can make this half and half. Can people still see? You probably can't see that, huh? Okay, let's move on. Dale King, a CrossFit box owner in Portsmouth, Ohio, who is leading Metfix affiliate program, suggested that Metfix might appeal to another group of gym owners, those who have already abandoned CrossFit and want something new. I probably disagree with that. I think most people who've abandoned CrossFit are probably not looking for whatever Metfix has to offer. There's been a lot of people who have dropped their affiliate for one reason or another and who feel like they're doing better business because they don't have all the negative connotations of CrossFit attached to it, he said. I think there's an opportunity there, but ultimately Metfix isn't intended to replace CrossFit outright. A lot of people have asked me if they can do both. Ms. Kaplan said, the end goal is to save lives and not become competitive and petty. I like that. I'm going to read the comments here in just a second, but what I have to say is that I guess I don't have anything to say. Let's read the comments. CrossFit, keeping health, physical therapists in business since 2000. Okay, Raymond, you're lame, and probably weak. Is it still true that the number one rule of CrossFit is to be sure to mention CrossFit? Yes. As a 40-year-old woman 10 years ago, I tore open a Men's Health magazine in the grocery store, determined to learn what headline promised: the singular most effective exercise for anyone at any age. I had to know. I've been enjoying enlightenment ever since. They were spot on. The most effective exercise is the one you're going to do consistently, be it badminton or tire juggling. It's about consistently. Find what connects. If that happens to be condens condescending condescending capitalism with a backwards ball cap, then get after it. Okay. Heck yeah, man. Big fan of Arnold's foundation program through his pump app. Plus, okay, only CrossFitters I know are injured CrossFitters. Okay. These workouts are dangerous. You don't have to hurt yourself to push yourself. Okay. Off the carbs is a display of embarrassing ignorance. Fruits, vegetables, and healthy grains are all carbs. Yeah, I don't think he was talking about those. Anyway, why are Americans men in particular so these odd-mouthed men who don't concern themselves with facts? They worship other men who are anything but kind, empathetic, and educated and humble. What are you talking about? God, CrossFit. The music is so loud, the instructors yell more loudly. Then there are kettlebells and Olympic bars that are inevitably bruise you somewhere. Just miserable and painful. Did I mention chalk? Why is there so much ridiculous chalk? It gets everywhere. Chalk. A gym should be a quiet space with a few dumbbells and a few booty machines. Heck yeah, Nate. Okay. All right. These are going to start pissing me off, so I'm just going to read a couple more. I was an avid CrossFitter for years, decent age group athlete at the CrossFit Games, and trained in multiple gyms in the US and UK and Iceland. I've seen great coaches and terrible coaches, inclusive gyms and elitist gyms. People with positive, healthy life changes and people with devastating injuries that destroy their health. I no longer do CrossFit because all that clean eating and functional fitness did not prevent me from getting diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic cancer that destroyed my bones and left me unable to walk. Yeesh. That sucks. The cult of CrossFit and Glassman, the guru, do have positive things to offer you, though I'd argue I can get better strength and functional fitness, nutrition advice elsewhere. But I'll pass on any claims that you need money every month for the program that will save lives. Okay, well, I'm just not going to comment on that. For some, the CrossFit Kool-Aid and gym bro culture, whether there or the latest, pumps it up. I don't understand how you can look at this man and take his advice on how to eat or work out. He clearly does too much of one and not enough of the other. In my opinion, calisthenics is much better than CrossFit. Okay. Some people state that all workouts can cause injuries. That's true, but intensity of CrossFit seems to cause more injuries as well as serious ones. I haven't done CrossFit all my life, stronger and fitter than I was in my 20s. You don't need CrossFit to get fit. True. Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to read all these because people are actually crazy. But anyway. Okay, I'm going to read this one. CrossFit as a workout program is okay. It works and it's enjoyable, and a lot of people really do like the social aspect. But it does dispose one to injury. Most people simply don't have the flexibility to do some of the Olympic lifts, and combining exercises like deadlifts, which need strict attention to form to avoid injury, with high intensity conditioning is a recipe for a lifetime of lower back pain. I've been doing CrossFit for 6 years and have no lower back pain almost ever. Swapping out the movements for lower risk exercises is the way to do it and not as modifications. My wife and I tried CrossFit many years ago. Our experience was different from all the glowing stories. The box we went to was full of people that were mostly in peak physical condition. They looked down on us the moment we walked in. I hate gyms like that. The couple running it were glad to take our money, but that's about all they did. The takeaway is that they were more interested in building a team of competitors for sanctioned events than assisting people to train. Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Sadly, that exists. Okay, I'm done reading all these comments. Anyway, second thing I had on the list for today is this guy right here. If it'll load. Nope. Give me 1 second. This guy right here did 1,000 unbroken double unders. 1,000. I think this video's like 17 minutes long. Okay, I'm gonna read you the caption of this guy. Attempt 2. 1,000 unbroken double unders achieved. This year has looked different than I wanted it to. I've had a lower back injury that has prevented me from doing much of what I love. But there was things I could do. Jump rope was one of them, so I made a goal. By the end of 2024, I was going to do 1,000 unbroken double unders. I made a program to get me there, and it worked. This showed me that I can achieve my goals, and I work towards no matter how heavy life gets. And you can too, blah, 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 blah. That's insane. 1,000 unbroken double unders. I really wonder, like, what his program was. Like, what he did to get him there. What the program, like, was he doing? And how long the program was. Like, was this from the beginning of the year? Was this 6 months? Did it take him 3 months? What was he at before, like, when he very first started? Anyway, 1,000 unbroken double unders is absolutely insane. So nice job, Will. Looks like his name is. That's sick. And the last thing I want to talk about, well, one of the last things I want to talk about is that not today. Last weekend, I did a 24-hour row with a group of some friends. We did basically 15 minutes on, 45 minutes off for 24 sets. I didn't think it was going to be that bad. Oh, my fault. Sharing the wrong tab. I didn't think it was going to be that bad. This is it. It's by Rogue Fitness. It's called the Standard Challenge. Max meters rode in 24 hours. We did a team of 4. And we rode for 24 hours, 15 minutes on, 45 minutes off. If you're wondering, no, you could not sleep in the 20. Well, I could not sleep in the 45 minutes off. What would happen is you'd finish your 15-minute row, you'd be sweating, you'd be all hot. It's 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. We went from 7 p.m. to 7 p.m. the next day. I guess 1,500 to 1,500. I would finish. I'd be all hot. I'd be all sweaty. I'd start to cool down. I'd have my 45-minute break. I'd start to cool down. About halfway through, I'd cool down enough to where I could start to kind of get a little bit sleepy. It's 2 or 3 in the morning. And then because your body temperature drops when you start to try and fall asleep, because I'm slightly sweaty from that row, I would get freezing cold. I'd sit there shivering for 10 minutes, and then it was time for me to go again on the rower. So, no, I did not sleep. I basically didn't sleep for like 36 hours or something like that, maybe even more, 38, 40 hours. We just rode and rode and rode. I think there's a team of 4 that I was on. We got like 313,000 meters. I held basically a 212 for the whole entire thing. And then 2 of the guys in my affiliate, in my gym, Drake Lewis and Gage Capel, they did a team of 2. which just sounds terrible. So that was sick. And then this was for the Big Fish Foundation. This here is they give back to veterans to do, I believe, like outdoor stuff and gym kind of activities for veterans. So yeah, um, I probably wouldn't recommend because it sucked. But if you want to do it, go give it a try. Rogue Challenge. I think they give out pretty cool T-shirts from what I heard. You do get a T-shirt when you sign up. Anyway, that was terrible. Last thing I want to talk about is actually that's it. So, that's all for today. Tomorrow, I think I'm gonna get on and talk about the workouts that I've done this year that are the hardest because Shut Up and Scribble, which is on Sevon's channel, it's like Taylor Self and the guy who owns Crash. They talked about the hardest workouts they've done this year. It was pretty cool, pretty interesting. I think I'm gonna go and look back at my programming for the year and just talk about the worst workouts I've done, most painful. But yeah, I think this is going to be it for today. So again, if you watch, thank you for watching. If you have something you want to see, let me know. If you have a time that you want me to hop on, so that we can kind of go live and bounce off each other. Sounds good. Thanks for watching.